Hello, thoughtful Libra. There are moments in astrology when change does not arrive loudly, but begins with the realization that something you once called balance no longer feels balanced at all. This may be one of those periods. Subtle movements in your inner and outer world could draw your attention toward relationships, choices, and priorities that deserve a closer look. Pay attention to what feels different in the near future, because the most meaningful shift may begin before anything visibly changes. This is less about predicting a dramatic event and more about recognizing a period of recalibration. You may find yourself reconsidering where your energy goes, what you tolerate for the sake of harmony, and whether certain relationships or responsibilities still reflect who you are becoming. Notice when your inner truth becomes harder to negotiate away. If you feel ready to meet this change with greater honesty, write in the comments, "I choose balance without abandoning myself." Those words are not meant to guarantee an outcome. They can simply mark a decision to include yourself and the balance you create for everyone else. Genuine harmony is not built by keeping every person comfortable at your expense. Sometimes it begins when your own needs, values, and feelings are finally allowed equal weight. To understand why this theme belongs naturally to Libra, look toward Venus, your ruling planet. Venus is often associated with romance and beauty, but astrologically it also speaks to value, attraction, reciprocity, and the choices revealing what truly matters to you. It reflects what you welcome into your life and what deserves your time and emotional investment. When Venusian themes become prominent, they can invite you to examine whether your outer choices still reflect your inner values. And that can quietly change everything. As your sense of value evolves, you may notice uneven relationships, compromises that ask too much, or opportunities you overlooked because you considered everyone else's response before your own. What once seemed peaceful may reveal how much silence was required to maintain it. The question becomes less about preserving an old arrangement and more about discovering genuine reciprocity. Libra is often described simply as the sign of balance, yet balance is not the same as avoiding discomfort. As a cardinal air sign, Libra carries an instinct for initiating movement through perspective, dialogue, and discernment. Your growth may not require forcing your way forward. It may begin with seeing a situation differently and speaking from that clearer place. Sometimes change starts with an uncomfortable question. What are you still making room for simply because you once called it harmony? Perhaps there is a relationship where understanding has become one-sided, a responsibility you carry because disappointing someone feels harder, or a decision you delayed while searching for an answer that satisfies everyone. These patterns are not necessarily weakness. Some may once have helped you navigate difficult chapters with grace. But a strategy that protected peace can eventually cost too much. Emotional maturity means recognizing the difference between compromise and self-erasure. You can care about another person's feelings without becoming responsible for all of them. And you can listen with compassion without allowing your own voice to disappear. That is where strength takes on another meaning. It is not about defeating another person or proving yourself right. Sometimes strength means facing what you already know. An arrangement has become uneven, an expectation no longer fits, or something familiar is preventing you from growing. Acknowledging that truth can create more freedom than maintaining appearances. If you have felt more reflective or selective about where your energy goes, do not immediately dismiss it as restlessness. Inner change often arrives before the mind knows how to explain it. It can feel like fresh air entering a room closed for too long, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore once you remember how differently you can breathe. Your instincts may already recognize what your thoughts are still learning to name. There are also efforts within you that others may never fully see. The conversations you handled carefully, disappointments you carried without becoming hardened, and times you kept showing up while wondering whether your effort mattered have shaped you. Growth is not measured only by visible achievements. Sometimes it appears in the boundaries you finally hold and the choices you no longer need to justify. If your efforts have felt invisible, remember that meaningful change rarely announces itself all at once. Each time you choose honesty over automatic harmony, reciprocity over one-sided giving, or self-respect over familiar approval, your inner balance adjusts. Your circumstances may look almost identical from the outside, while something essential within has already shifted. Sometimes transformation begins with the quiet realization, I am not approaching my life from the same place anymore. Take a moment and ask yourself, have you sensed that a more complete version of you is emerging? Not someone entirely different, but someone less willing to disappear inside compromises that no longer feel fair. If the answer is yes, write in the comments, I am ready to honor the person I am becoming. An affirmation cannot change circumstances overnight, but it can mark the moment you begin treating your needs as part of the equation. And if you are still here, take a second to like this video as a quiet acknowledgement of the growth you are noticing. Sharing it may bring these words to another Libra wondering whether the changes they feel are real. Returning to the astrology, Venus matters because its symbolism reaches beyond romance and beauty into values, reciprocity, attraction, and what you believe you deserve. When those Venusian themes become more noticeable, unresolved situations can begin to look different. A decision may become clearer, a relationship may reveal what has been uneven, or an opportunity may feel more appealing because you are finally evaluating it through your own values. The situation itself may not change first, your perspective does. And once perspective shifts, complicated choices can begin to simplify. Venus also reminds you that attraction alone is not alignment. Something can be beautiful, familiar, or emotionally compelling, and still ask too much of you. Maturity means distinguishing what genuinely nourishes you from what merely keeps the surface peaceful. For Libra, wisdom often grows between what looks harmonious and what actually feels reciprocal. Real courage here may be quieter than making a dramatic move. It may mean hearing your own answer before asking what everyone else thinks, or continuing forward without needing every relationship to approve of your direction. Small choices gradually return weight to your side of the scales. When your truth is no longer the first thing available for compromise, life can begin to feel different. In the near future, you may recognize that certain environments, expectations, or relationships no longer fit as naturally as before. That does not automatically make them wrong, nor does distance always mean loss. Sometimes your values evolve beyond an arrangement that once made sense, creating room for greater reciprocity. Allow yourself to notice what is loosening without immediately forcing it back into place. Carry this question with you. If you no longer needed everyone to be comfortable with your choice, what truth would you finally allow yourself to follow? Share your thoughts in the comments, because giving language to something quietly known can make it easier to understand. And remain with this idea, because Libra's story here is not shaped by Venus alone. Another symbolic influence turns your attention from what appears balanced outside toward what you actually feel underneath. That influence is the moon, associated in astrology with memory, instinct, emotional needs, and experiences we carry without explaining them. If Venus asks what you value and allow close, the moon asks how those choices feel once the room becomes quiet. Together they highlight the difference between maintaining harmony and genuinely experiencing it. Libra is associated with diplomacy and the ability to understand more than one side. That sensitivity can be a genuine strength when tension rises. Yet another kind of awareness matters just as much, noticing your own emotional truth without immediately negotiating it away. Understanding someone else does not require abandoning what you feel. You may notice this through small moments. An old memory may return, a conversation may stay with you longer than expected, or your thoughts may continue moving after everything becomes quiet. These reactions do not necessarily mean you are overly sensitive. They may reveal emotions that finally have enough space to be heard. Lunar symbolism does not work against Venus, it deepens it. Venus can show what draws you closer, while the moon asks whether your heart feels safe, understood, and emotionally present there. A relationship can look balanced without feeling nourishing, just as a choice can appear reasonable while leaving something inside unsettled. Emotional maturity begins when both truths are allowed onto the scales. This is where quieter strength becomes visible. Empathy without boundaries can exhaust you, while boundaries without empathy can create unnecessary distance. The deeper work is holding both, remaining considerate without surrendering your voice and protecting yourself without hardening your heart. You may find yourself listening more carefully, responding less automatically, and giving yourself more time before deciding what something means. That change is not necessarily hesitation. It can show that your relationship with yourself is becoming steadier. Some emotions surface because something needs release. Others appear because a part of you has been waiting to receive the patience you naturally offer others. Feeling deeply can help you understand what balance actually requires. If you've been more sensitive lately, meet that sensitivity with curiosity rather than judgment. Perhaps an old habit of keeping everything smooth is loosening, allowing a more honest version of you to breathe underneath it. Ask yourself, are you learning to offer yourself the same understanding you give to others? Not to avoid difficult choices, but to make them without punishing the unfinished parts of yourself. If this question reaches something tender within you, share in the comments. I allow myself to be both strong and gentle. Sometimes one honest acknowledgement can change how you understand yourself. And if you are hearing these words during a quiet part of your day, take a moment to like this video. There's a simple way of honoring the growth already taking place. Sharing this message may help another Libra remember that emotions are not inconveniences. They can reveal what feels nourishing, what feels uneven, and where attention is needed. The moon carries another lesson. Not every disagreement requires your participation, and not every relationship deserves endless negotiation. Sometimes peace means knowing when to stop giving energy to something that repeatedly leaves your heart depleted. When you create that space, intuition becomes easier to hear. You may recognize who genuinely meets you halfway, which relationships allow you to remain yourself, and which choices leave you lighter instead of responsible for maintaining everything. This clarity rarely arrives at once. It is more like morning light entering a familiar room, gradually revealing what was always there. Through lunar sensitivity and Venusian discernment, another kind of strength develops. It is not built on keeping everything pleasant at any cost, but on knowing when compassion needs a boundary beside it. A caring heart does not require surrendering your own position. The more honestly you understand yourself, the more genuine your care for others can become. Ask yourself, if you offered yourself the same patience and consideration you extend to others, what might begin to change? Keep that question close, because the next movement reaches beyond emotional understanding. As your inner balance becomes clearer, you may become more capable of recognizing possibilities that once felt distant. This is where Jupiter enters the picture, carrying the symbolism of expansion, perspective, and a wider horizon. If the moon draws attention toward what you truly feel, Jupiter asks you to look outward again with a different understanding of yourself. In astrology, Jupiter is associated with growth, opportunity, confidence, and seeing beyond familiar limits. For Libra, this does not necessarily mean sudden luck. It can describe a period when your changing perspective helps you recognize possibilities you once dismissed, postponed, or viewed mainly through others' expectations. In the near future, expansion could appear through a profession or opportunity, partnership, invitation, meaningful conversation, or the realization that an old direction no longer reflects your values. Jupiter does not guarantee that every open door belongs to you. Its symbolism encourages you to think more broadly while remaining conscious of what genuinely fits. The opportunity worth considering may be one that lets you grow without becoming smaller in order to belong. That distinction matters for Libra. When you naturally understand different perspectives, it can be tempting to judge a decision by how comfortably everyone else receives it. But some turning points ask another question. Does this choice honor the person I am becoming? Growth can begin when you stop searching for a decision that creates no discomfort and consider the one that creates greater honesty. Jupiter's symbolism is expansive, but it does not force movement. It can reveal a wider landscape while leaving the decision in your hands. An important opportunity may initially feel less like certainty and more like possibility, a space asking you to trust your judgment before every detail settles. Sometimes the meaningful step is allowing yourself to believe that a larger life does not have to cost your inner peace. pause and consider what might still make you hesitate. Is it the possibility of being wrong, the discomfort of changing an established arrangement, or the thought that choosing more for yourself could disappoint someone? Libra's deeper growth is not about becoming indifferent to other people's feelings. It is realizing that consideration and self-respect can exist on the same side of the scales. There is also a deeper side to Jupiter beyond conventional success. Expansion is not valuable simply because it gives you recognition, a larger role, or greater visibility. Your worth does not increase because others finally notice what you can do. Meaningful growth gives you enough inner room to live according to your values, while allowing that integrity to influence those around you. You may already be doing this without realizing it. Each time you face difficulty without abandoning your principles, speak honestly without becoming cruel, or choose reciprocity instead of approval, someone may notice. Influence does not always come from standing at the front of the room. Sometimes it comes from showing others how to remain considerate without disappearing from their own lives. Jupiter can expand perspective as much as circumstance. Your path does not need to be measured against another person's timing, relationships, achievements, or definition of success. As that understanding deepens, growth becomes less about proving you have arrived somewhere, and more about becoming someone whose choices feel coherent from within. What you build from there has a greater chance of bringing meaning into the lives you touch. In the near future, you may find yourself trusted with a new role, invited into a different collaboration, or asked to carry greater responsibility. Give yourself time to adjust if that happens. New space can feel unfamiliar even when it is welcome, much like your eyes adjusting as you step from a dim room into daylight. You do not need to understand everything immediately. You only need to meet what unfolds with awareness, patience, and a clearer sense of what truly belongs on your side of the scales. And if something within you has been quietly suggesting that more is possible, do not dismiss it because you cannot yet explain where it leads. Intuition often begins as a subtle recognition before becoming a clear decision. Ask yourself, if a meaningful opportunity appeared in the near future, would you consider it without first measuring your choice against everyone else's expectations? If so, write in the comments, I am ready to say yes to what truly aligns with me. Sometimes putting a commitment into words is how we admit we are ready to see life differently. If you are still listening, take a moment to like this video as an acknowledgement of your growth. Sharing it may also reach another Libra whose priorities are beginning to change. Growth can first appear as unexpected change, necessary distance, a revealing conversation, or a direction you never planned to consider. These moments may feel unsettling because they disturb something familiar, yet they can also create room for greater reciprocity and authenticity. Jupiter does not remove difficulty. Symbolically, it widens the horizon so you can recognize possibilities that were harder to see before. If something new begins taking shape, meet it with openness and discernment. You do not need to reinvent yourself to deserve a larger opportunity or abandon your values because something looks promising. Expansion means little if gaining more requires losing your connection with yourself. But a wider horizon raises another question. Can you sustain what you are asking to receive? This is where possibility begins meeting responsibility. After Jupiter's expansion, Saturn introduces a quieter, more serious tone. In astrology, Saturn represents structure, accountability, boundaries, patience, and what can endure over time. It draws attention to what you have carefully built and what still needs stronger foundations. For Libra, that question becomes personal. Where have you accepted responsibility because it belongs to you, and where have you carried something because putting it down might disappoint someone? Maturity is understanding that compassion does not require taking ownership of every problem around you. Some of your most important growth may already have happened quietly. Perhaps you kept relationships functioning while emotionally tired, carried responsibilities without recognition, or tried to remain fair when circumstances felt unfair. Looking back, those experiences may have taught you more about your limits, values, and resilience than you realized. You are not standing in the same place internally anymore. Situations that once made you question yourself may now reveal where boundaries are needed. Conversations you avoided may feel necessary, while responsibilities you automatically accepted may deserve reconsideration. Saturn reminds us that repeated choices gradually create the structure of a life. Each time you honor a boundary, follow through on a commitment, or remain faithful to your values when approval would be easier, you strengthen something within yourself. The result may not appear immediately, but the foundation becomes more reliable. Discipline does not have to mean harshness. It can mean protecting what matters from patterns that drain your time, attention, or self-respect. For Libra, that may mean remaining committed to a decision, even when another person's reaction makes you uncomfortable. In the near future, something familiar may no longer fit. It could be an old belief about what you owe others, an uneven relationship, or a habit of postponing your needs until everyone else feels settled. What protected an earlier version of you does not always belong in the life you are building now. Perhaps the deeper work is no longer proving how much you can endure, but deciding what deserves your endurance. Notice where you distrust your judgment or confuse keeping the peace with keeping something healthy. Saturn's lesson becomes one of self-respect and consistency. There may be moments when this process feels lonely because others do not understand why something once acceptable no longer feels right. That does not automatically mean you have chosen incorrectly. Sometimes changing your relationship with yourself changes the rhythm of your relationships with others. So ask yourself, are you ready to release patterns that preserve harmony at the expense of your growth? If that resonates, write in the comments, I am ready to grow without abandoning myself. And if you are still listening, take a moment to like this video as a quiet acknowledgement of the persistence that brought you here. Difficulty does not always mean you have taken the wrong path. Sometimes it reveals where stronger boundaries and clearer values are needed. One of Saturn's deeper gifts is the self-trust that develops when you realize you can rely on yourself. Perhaps disappointment showed you where reciprocity was missing, while difficult relationships revealed where compassion had become self-neglect. Astrology cannot tell you every hardship happened for a predetermined reason, but its symbols can help you recognize what those experiences taught you. For Libra, this is where renewal becomes meaningful. Your story is shaped by cardinal air and Venusian themes of value, relationship, fairness, and choice. Sometimes one honest change in perspective can shift the emotional atmosphere around you. Renewal does not require destroying the life you already have. The scales may move towards center, but not toward exactly the same position as before. You have changed, so your definition of balance may need to change with you. This is why the near future carries a theme of recalibration. Mature balance is responsive rather than frozen. Sometimes genuine harmony requires allowing an old arrangement to change instead of continually forcing it back into place. If you feel a desire to live more honestly, notice what it asks from you. It may simply be asking you to stop editing yourself so heavily that others only meet the version designed to keep them comfortable. There is strength in kindness that no longer depends on self-sacrifice. You can say no while remaining thoughtful, hold a boundary while remaining compassionate, and understand another perspective without surrendering your own. That is where Libra's relational intelligence becomes integrity. Integrity means your values and choices begin speaking the same language. Not everyone will understand your decisions, but honesty can build stronger trust than constant accommodation. Success then takes on another meaning. It can be the result of repeatedly choosing what is sustainable, reciprocal, and true. What you build from that place is less likely to require you to disappear in order to maintain it. Others may notice this change. A friend may see you holding boundaries without becoming bitter, or someone close may find courage to speak honestly because they watched you do the same. Influence can simply mean showing that another way is possible. This is a natural expression of leadership for Libra. You do not need to become the loudest voice in the room. You can influence through fairness, thoughtful communication, and staying true to your values when an easier compromise is available. In the near future, notice what your presence contributes to the relationships around you. When you stop constantly adjusting yourself to preserve an old equilibrium, others have the opportunity to meet you more honestly. Some connections may deepen, while others may reveal why they felt uneven. Pause and ask yourself, what part of your life are you ready to guide more consciously? Perhaps it is a relationship, a project, your family, a postponed dream, or simply your own direction. Clarity can begin when you recognize what you no longer want to leave entirely in other people's hands. If that question touches something within you, share in the comments. I am ready to choose my path without abandoning myself. When you begin relating to yourself differently, your experience of the world can shift. You may become more receptive to reciprocal relationships, more aware of opportunities reflecting your values, and less interested in doors that require you to negotiate away parts of yourself. For Libra, balance is not something you find once and preserve forever. Like scales responding to new weight, your relationships, priorities, and boundaries may need a different center as you grow. The goal is not to return to who you were, but to create space for who you are becoming. The deeper astrological story has never been only about events happening around you. Venus speaks to what you value, the Moon to what you feel, Jupiter to where you may expand, and Saturn to the structure capable of supporting that growth. Together, they describe a quieter form of renewal. This transformation does not need to overturn your life overnight. It can unfold like morning light moving through a familiar room, gradually revealing details that were difficult to see before. Sometimes a new chapter begins through perception before circumstances visibly change. You may remain in familiar relationships and responsibilities while responding from a different place. Perhaps you become calmer during disagreement, clearer about what belongs to you, or less willing to measure your worth through another person's approval. Life may look familiar, while the person making choices within it has changed. If you are seeing familiar situations with clearer eyes, give that change room to develop. You do not need complete certainty before taking your next step. Sometimes fear remains present, but it no longer receives the deciding vote. Remember what you have already moved through. You do not need to romanticize hardship to recognize the strength, discernment, and resilience you develop through it. As you look toward the near future, you do not need to know exactly what will happen to trust yourself more deeply. You can meet unfamiliar choices, relationships, or opportunities with a clearer understanding of what deserves your yes, what requires a boundary, and what no longer belongs on your side of the scales. If you feel something quietly shifting, acknowledge it without needing to define it immediately. Perhaps it is self-awareness, renewed trust, or relief from realizing you do not have to maintain every old arrangement forever. If these words resonate, write in the comments, "I trust myself to choose what truly aligns with me." And if this message has brought you clarity, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with another Libra navigating a similar period. Sometimes knowing others are asking similar questions makes growth feel less isolating. Remember that renewal does not require becoming someone entirely different. You can remain thoughtful, compassionate, and open while becoming more honest about your limits. You can care deeply without carrying everything and seek harmony without making your own needs the price. Trust the adjustments that make you more present rather than depleted. Trust the boundaries that leave room for genuine affection and the choices that allow your voice to exist beside everyone else's. Balance is alive. What matters is noticing when the scales have shifted and being willing to respond. Perhaps the deeper message for Libra in the near future is simpler than any prediction. You do not have to keep yourself small to keep everything else in balance. The version of you emerging is not leaving kindness behind. It is learning to include self-respect within that kindness. And as the scales find their new center, you may discover how different life feels when you allow yourself to stand fully on your own side of them.